What did you put in my drink? I knew my drink tasted funny. You did this because you didn't want the baby. Those are a few of Jade Benning's last words, heard by her very best friend, Nyjah Jackson. Words that she heard spoken to Blaze Taylor over the phone 20 minutes before EMTs would find Jade Benning pulseless.
On February 25th, 2023, a 911 operator received a call about a woman having what the caller described as an allergic reaction. That caller never mentioned she was pregnant. He never mentioned her name.
EMTs found Jade Benning face down, laying across her bed, not in her bed, across her bed, face down. She was pulseless. When they found Jade Benning, she had this pink, frothy liquid around her mouth, like a spit up. And the area where she had been face down on her comforter, it had that same pink spit up vomit on it. The EMTs did not even know that Jade Benning was 5 months pregnant.
And he never mentioned what she had said to him minutes earlier.
And it was about that same time in August of 2022 that Jade Benning had been linked with Blaze Taylor on a dating app. They started trading messages, and in mid-August, they went out to one dinner at Stony River and went on a date. And they began a casual relationship. It became sexual. It was not a public relationship. They dated, and sometime in late September, Jade Benning became pregnant. Now, she did not find out that she was pregnant until November 2nd of 2022. And when Jade Benning took that home pregnancy test, the very first thing that she did was she called her best friend, Nyjah. She told her, and they started planning to figure out how they could get an appointment to make sure that that was in fact the case. And she confirmed that she definitely was pregnant. Jade Benning reached out to Blaze Taylor, told him that she needed to talk to him in person, and they talked. And then the next day they talked some more. Jade Benning reached out to her mom, Bridget, to her dad, Dennis. She told both of them. She talked to Nyjah a lot about it. She was happy. And on November 6th of 2022, she sent a message to Blaze Taylor confirming her choice to the ultimatum that he gave her. There were no more messages between them. Not any messages until New Year's Eve.
She had said, "What did you put in my drink?" Imagine a painter who can't finish her canvas, a chef who made her last meal, a mother who never got to name her daughter. That is the image at the center of this case.
Before any of those events happened, Jade Benning was a young 24-year-old, about to turn 25, young woman who was very happy to be 5 months pregnant. Jade Benning was not from the Nashville area. She's from Arkansas. She grew up there with her mom, Bridget, her stepdad, Glenn. That's where she met her very best friend, Nyjah Jackson, when she was just 6 years old. Jade went on to school. She was a competitive athlete growing up. She went on to school, but her dream was to be a chef. And she achieved that dream. She went to culinary school, she graduated, and Jade actually had family living in the Nashville area. Her stepmom and dad and her half-sister lived in the Nashville area, and her stepmom's brother owned a restaurant and he hired her on as a chef. And she was so happy to be living her dream. She had a group of really close friends that worked with her at the restaurant. And that was early 2022. And then in August of 2022, Jade Benning's best friend, Najee Jackson, her very best friend growing up, moved to Nashville to go to school at Meharry. They were back together again, and these two girls talked constantly, told each other everything. They were so incredibly close.
A woman painting words like hope and beautiful and believe onto a canvas for her unborn baby's nursery, while someone in that same room already knew she would never wake up.
During that hour and a half time period, Jade was very active on her phone. She took pictures. There's a picture at 9:10 p.m. where you can kind of see a progress of the painting project. And you see Jade's painting. And she has the words love that she's painted on the painting. These paintings were for the baby's nursery because she was having a baby girl. And you'll see the painting that she has that says love, hope, inspire, peace. And then the digital forensics expert from Metro Nashville Police Department will testify and explain that he can tell that Jade Benning not only was on Pinterest, but she actually searched. She was looking for inspiration for more words that were beautiful words of inspiration. So that's from 9:10 to 9:24. At 9:24, there are a series of 12 photos taken. The 12 photos are all pictures of Jade Benning and Blaze Taylor, and several of them have her painting in it. The last painting was at 9:10, and at 9:24, she has added words to the painting. She has added the words believe and beautiful and hope. Painted them on the painting. It's at 9:28 and 45 seconds. That is the last action that happens on Jade Benning's phone. That last 12 picture was deleted.
That is what the state's evidence is going to show. And that image does not leave you. Before we go deeper into what the documents and testimony actually reveal, make sure you're subscribed to Crime Files 911, because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. Now, let's talk about what the medical examiner found. When Jade Benning arrived at Vanderbilt Hospital's emergency room at approximately 10 p.m. on February 25th, 2023, the treatment team did not know she was 5 months pregnant.
They rushed Jade Benning to Vanderbilt Hospital, and when she arrived at the ER, Jade Benning was dead. You will hear evidence and testimony this week that none of the treatment team at Vanderbilt's emergency room had that night of February 25th, 2023, just after 10 p.m. when Jade Benning came to their emergency department.
The man who called 911 did not tell them. The man who called 911 did not tell them she was pregnant. The first blood draw came at 10:31 p.m. Months later, when that sample was tested, the concentration of cocaine in Jade Benning's blood was higher than anything the medical examiner had ever seen, not just in her career, higher than anything the entire medical examiner's office had ever recorded in an overdose death.
You will hear the evidence and testimony that the blood sample that was taken in the emergency room at 10:31 p.m., the very first blood sample from Jade Benning, But the later testing that came back months later, the concentration of cocaine in her blood was so high, it was unlike anything the medical examiner in this case had ever seen. But it was higher than anything the entire medical examiner's office had seen. You will also hear evidence and testimony that the testing of that pink spit up vomit on Jade's comforter, that it also tested an outrageous level of cocaine. You will hear evidence and testimony from multiple different experts that the physical evidence in this case shows that Jade Benning orally ingested cocaine that had been dissolved in a liquid.
Let that sit for a moment. Higher than anything the entire medical examiner's office had ever seen. And according to prosecutors, it wasn't just in her blood. The pink, frothy liquid found on her comforter, the same surface she was found face down across, pulseless. That tested positive for cocaine at an equally outrageous level. Multiple experts, according to the state's opening, are expected to testify that the physical evidence indicates Jade Benning orally ingested cocaine that had been dissolved in a liquid. She had been drinking a pink drink that night. Her best friend Nia Jackson and another witness both saw it. Neither of them drank anything while they were there.
Jade Benning asked Blaze Taylor again on Saturday the 25th if they could hang out and have a date night. And he agreed. And she told him to be at her house at 7 p.m. Wear comfy clothes, she had something planned. And she had already been talking to Nigella Jackson about what she was going to do. She came up with an idea that they would do kind of like a sip and paint, not the sip, because she was pregnant and she was not drinking any alcohol, but that they would paint and she would make dinner. She, the chef, Jade Benning, was going to make one of her specialties, chicken Alfredo. Nigella Jackson suggested that meal because it was her favorite. Nigella wasn't eating chicken, but she wanted the Alfredo. She suggested it, and that day Nigella even said, I can stop by and get some food. Because Nigella Jackson, her best friend when she was 6 years old, had never met Blaze Taylor, the man that she was having a baby with. And so that day, Jade worked early in the day, but she went home, she got everything ready, she had canvases, she had paint, she took multiple pictures of everything, she cooked the dinner, she took pictures beforehand, and about 7 o'clock p.m., Blaze Taylor came over, and they ate dinner together, and then at 7:30, Nigella Jackson, she had been at school, and one of her friends that she went to school with, Keontae Jones, was with her, and they stopped by to pick up food. They weren't planning on staying. They ended up being there for about 30 minutes, and they talked to them. Nigella got to meet Blaze Taylor for the first time. They did both notice that Jade was drinking a pink drink. They didn't drink anything while they were there, and they said goodbye.
Now here is the question you need to sit with, because this is where this case stops being a headline and becomes something closer to a thriller with no fictional distance. If cocaine was dissolved in that drink, who dissolved it and when? And why does the man who was in that apartment tell 3 separate law enforcement officers that she simply threw up and he called 911? He never told them she was pregnant. He never told them she was pregnant.
You will also be presented with that 911 call. That 911 call where the operator says the standard, please give me the address of your emergency. He says, I don't know, it's on Donaldson. I'm with my friend and she's having an allergic reaction. He goes on to tell the 911 operator that she must be having an allergic reaction to something she ate. He doesn't tell the 911 operator anything about what Jade Benning said. And about 6 minutes and 25 seconds into that 911 call, which he called his dad, 45 seconds before he called 911. It was a 30-second phone call. Now that's several minutes after the call with Nigeria ended. Not a ton of time, but 2 or 3 minutes after that call ends. Places a call to his dad, 30-second call. He calls 911. But again, he's told all 3 people, he later tells all 3 law enforcement. She grew up, I called my dad, I called 911. 6 minutes and 25 seconds into the 911 call, he tells them, I think she's throwing up. He never tells 911 that Jade Benning is his girlfriend. He never tells them she's pregnant.
The state also intends to call a prior girlfriend, Apple Denny, who prosecutors say will testify that years before this case, Blaze Taylor asked her to obtain an abortion pill so he could place it in another woman's drink without her knowledge, to cause a termination without consent. That witness allegedly told him no.
You will also hear from another witness, Miss Apple Denny. She dated Blaze Taylor her freshman year of college. It was back in 2017. She was a freshman in college and she became pregnant. And she was not ready to be a mother at all. And she made the decision. He was with her. She made the decision to have an abortion. And Blaze Taylor went to those appointments with Miss Denny. They explained to her she had 2 options. And he was in those appointments, they talked about it. And she made a decision to have that abortion herself. Several months later, she will also describe to you a time when Blaze Taylor came to her in somewhat of a panic. And he told her that while they were on a break, he had slept with another woman, Xavier Winford, and she was pregnant. And she was refusing to have an abortion. And Apple Denny will tell you that Blaze Taylor asked her if she would go to the abortion clinic and get the abortion pill so that he could put it in Xavier Winford's drink to cause an abortion without her knowing. Miss Denny told him no, and also told him that wasn't even possible. And she will describe to you that he then began talking about what else could he put in her drink that would cause an abortion. Jade Benning's last words. What did you put in my drink? I knew my drink tasted funny. You did this because you didn't want the baby.
And she will reportedly testify that he then began asking what else could be placed in a drink to cause an abortion. Jade Benning's last words, captured on a 6-minute phone call to her best friend, included, "What did you put in my drink? I knew my drink tasted funny. You did this because you didn't want the baby."
And then at 9:29 and 27 seconds, Jade Benning's phone calls her best friend Najee Jackson. Najee Jackson will describe to you that her best friend was talking, and she wasn't talking to her. So much so, Najee immediately sent her 2 messages. Are you talking to me? What's going on? Because it was not normal. Her friend did not sound normal at all. She described her as sounding wavy the way she was talking. She'd known her since she was 6. She knew it wasn't, I'm not feeling well, something like I feel sick. She described it that her friend sounded scared. Her friend was talking to Blaze Taylor, and Jade Benning said, "What did you do? I can't feel my legs. I can't walk straight. What did you put in my drink? I knew my drink tasted funny. What's in your hand? Show me. Show me your pocket. What did you put in my drink? I knew my drink tasted funny. You did this because you didn't want the baby." She was repeating, "What's in your hand?" At one point, he responded back to her, "Nothing." During this 6-minute and 9-second call, Jade Benning is screaming out to her friend who's not responding to her. She hears her friend say to Blaze Taylor, "You're scaring me." And his response was, "You're scaring me." After 6 minutes and 9 seconds, Jade's phone disconnected the call. Right before that call disconnected, Najee, she was so confused as to what was going on. She merged her friend Keontae Jones into the call so that he could hear it. And at the end, Jade was trying to speak, but couldn't form words. He heard Jade, but couldn't make out anything that she was saying.
He never told them she was pregnant.
Blaze Taylor didn't go to any of Jade Benning's pregnancy appointments. She had 3 in February before she died. He didn't go to the February 2nd appointment where she was going to find out if they were having a baby girl or a baby boy. She asked him to go, and he did not. The week before February 25th, 2023.
On March 6th, 2023, Jade Benning's 25th birthday, she was removed from life support. Her unborn baby girl died with her. The medical examiners determined cause of death: acute cocaine toxicity. The autopsy confirmed the baby was healthy.
Dr. Erin Carney with the medical examiner's office, she performed the autopsy on Jade Benning and her unborn baby girl. Dr. Carney already knew about Jade Benning before she ever died. She had already been contacted about her case because it was very unusual. And on February 28th, 2023, she requested Jade's first blood sample that it be retained and saved for testing. She performed the autopsy and she verified there was absolutely nothing wrong with Jade's baby. Had she remained alive, her pregnancy would have continued and she would have had a baby girl. Dr. Carney will testify and tell you that the cause of Jade Benning's death was acute cocaine toxicity, a level higher than anything she has ever seen in any overdose death.
Had Jade survived, the pregnancy would have continued without complication. There was nothing wrong with that child. Nothing at all. Here is what we are asking you to do right now. The 911 call placed on the night of February 25th, 2023 is part of the public court record in this case out of Davidson County, Tennessee. Find it. Listen to it. Count how many times the caller volunteers that the woman is pregnant. Count how many times he describes what she said to him. Then come back here and tell us in the comments. At what point in that call do you believe he knew exactly what was happening to her? If this evidence matters to you, like this video, share it, subscribe to Crime Files 911, and turn on notifications. We don't editorialize. We don't speculate beyond what the record shows. We follow the evidence, all the way to the end.